Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. Well, now that you're here, I might as well fill you in on some of the plans that are coming up for the car and my channel. All right, so we're almost at the end of this Supercharger Install series. In fact, this is going to be the last episode for the installation, so you'll actually see the car fired up for the first time at the end of the episode. It's also far from the end of the plans for the Z on the channel as well. If I can monetize the channel eventually, then obviously that'll help to speed things up in terms of what I can do and also potentially the quality of what I can deliver as well. So for that reason, I wanted to give you guys a few reasons to stick around and subscribe and, give the likes to the videos, that old chestnut. Firstly, I plan to introduce a pretty steep increase in quality of the production. Look, this series was filmed months and months ago before I even sort of had much of a plan in terms of how I was going to put this together. Certainly not, I didn't have a plan in terms of what I was filming either. It was largely done with, as you've seen, just a GoPro strapped to my head. So after the fact, I've been going back and trying to put this video into some kind of a cohesive narrative. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I'll be making an effort to introduce sort of clear objectives and show the outcomes of that as well. So a little bit more typical structure you'd expect to see in these sorts of videos rather than this kind of piecemeal approach I've had to date. So in terms of what's coming up, I'm planning on getting some good footage together of the car being put through its paces, whether it's on the road and some track time as well. As far as the projects that are coming up, I'm going to attempt to install a polyurethane splitter on the front stock bumper, as well as install a ducktail spoiler I've had sitting around for 6 months. Also, I'm going to install some sound deadening in the boot area, but the big one to stick around for is right here. That's right, that's the donor engine for my eventual rebuild. It's a bit too early to say when the build will start, let alone finish. But in the meantime, I'll be putting together a teardown video of the engine just to see what kind of condition it's in and what I can and can't use. Now, as far as this episode's concerned, this is the home stretch. So basically, it's getting some of the final pieces together, and that's mainly around the oil coolers at the front, the brackets, a couple of the hoses. Then it's mainly just fluids, getting the pipes in, and then it's cross my fingers and hope I haven't done anything wrong. So after settling on the final locations for the two coolers and installing the hoses, I realised if I had any chance of air making it through to this oil cooler, I needed to dam off this area. It looked pretty straightforward, so I picked up some 1mm aluminium sheet metal and had a crack at trying to fabricate one. The main reason I went with the 1mm is I don't have a sheet bender or any other fancy fabricating tools for that matter, so this stuff is thin enough to be able to hold a shape but won't take a lot of force to be able to bend it. On a side note, I'd love to get into some real fabrication eventually. When I can upgrade to a proper garage with some space, I'll start accumulating some fabrication tools and probably teach myself to weld. This is the final installation of the oil cooler and hoses. I made a few brackets out of aluminium strips, probably I think 3mm, and while you won't see them at SEMA anytime soon, they're perfectly practical behind my bumper. Off camera, I resized my AN lines to fit with the new location. I figured there's 1,000 videos you can watch on YouTube to see that done by much more experienced people than me, so I've saved you the time. But anyway, here's a picture so you don't feel too left out. This is kind of a huge moment. I'm going to take the cardboard off the intercooler because I think I can actually install it now. I'm going to eat those words, but that's right, I'm definitely close. I've pretty much just left this footage in just so you can get a better idea of how some of the piping works between sort of the intercooler and then underneath the headlight for the intake as well. Here I'm plugging in the horns, so just make sure you're aware that which one's the power and which one's the ground, because apparently it has the ability to be able to blow a fuse if you get it wrong, so make sure you keep an eye. And then also the air conditioner dryer is plugged in there, which is another harness that I extended. I'm just about to cut this feeder hose for the traction oil cooler. That seems about right. Better too long than too short. I don't think that's the right size. All right, that's the traction oil done. That is the ambient air temp sensor plugged in. Which I've got running up back here. Intercooler's good. Traction oil cooler in, sturdy. That's on. I like that to be a little bit more secure, but that's how the kit goes. Obviously I just got to put the wheel well cover back in. Looking good. Love that it's got a cold air intake. Over on this side, we're all happy. Got my plate in here. Maybe one day I'll make another one. I think this is going to be fine for my purpose for now. I don't like this flapping around, and I may still have to take a little bit off the bottom depending on where the bumper sits. But we're looking good. Everything is super tight in. Looking good. Very happy. And I'm 95% sure the bumper is going to fit now because I've been cutting back on the indicator thingy, which did damage that first time I tried to test fit it. But yeah, and you can see how this is going to work now. Air's coming in here. It's going to go one way or the other, but ideally, you know, you're going to get some of it to go this way. There's actually a fair bit of blockage here, so that already is going to sort of interrupt airflow and hopefully make it go straight through. We're definitely on the home stretch here. God, I hope I don't regret this, but I think I'm at the point where I can actually put the traction oil in, let that settle, and add another 150. And then only after you start the car and let it run for a bit that you top it up with another, up to another 80 mil. Let's have a look. Nice. Here's hoping I did everything right. Yeah, settled instantly. Another 150 mil. Weird. Doesn't even HKS. Secrets. Keep your secrets, HKS. For $400 a bottle, you better believe I'm going to get every last drop out of it. New one of these. We good. Right. So close. Let's leave that off. Plug this in. So this seems about as good a time as any to show you the MAF blank I made for the intake. I mentioned in a previous video or two that I'm using manifold pressure rather than the usual MAF. It's also the reason why I've got a standalone intake air temp sensor that you've just seen. So to delete the MAF, it means I need to plug the location that it would normally sit in. So I figured it's a good opportunity to further my 3D printing skills. I did end up going a little bit overkill for the application in terms of accuracy, but like I said, it was more of a learning opportunity. For the uninitiated, this is Fusion 360, that's the software I'm using, and I use a Ender 5 Pro for printing. And here's the finished product, which was printed with an ASA filament so it could handle the heat in the engine bay. I added a touch of RTV around this section just to make sure it would seal properly. here out, I spent some time tuning the idle settings, which I had to revisit several times, and then take the car out for increasingly longer drives to establish a safe fuel map. Between the customer support and the forums, Link ECU have been absolutely amazing for me. They've just made it so accessible for a novice enthusiast like myself to be able to dive in and get results. So yeah, the objective here now is just to get a safe enough fuel map on the car that I can drive it to the tuner and they can give it a proper tune.